you're trying to understand the world, one thing you have to do is, if you are even halfway sane and human being, you need to get out of that perspective, okay? You know, just remove yourself from any kind of sanity or humanity. Like, get out of that space. The space you need to get into is the space of a psychopath and a sociopath. No empathy whatsoever, completely drunk on power, willing to do anything and everything to elevate yourself and your position of power. That is the kind of mental space you need to get into if you want to understand the way things work.
I believe that it is beyond any doubt for any sensible person to realize that not only is the United States providing the financial cover, military cover, political cover for these terrorists through our proxies, but we've also, in pure technical sense, provided the training for these people in Jordan and Turkey. Another one of our best friends has been shuttling these psychopaths across the country from Turkey into Syria for a long time now. So, the idea that the West is actually fighting a war against ISIS is beyond ridiculous. So what we really need to do is start realizing the fact that we are ISIS, and the reason why our corrupt, treasonous governments are carrying out these policies is because they do not represent us. They represent the bankers, and the bankers make a hell of a lot of money off of war, and more importantly, as long as we're all fighting each other, as long as we're all not trusting each other, as long as we're all simply being played as pawns over and over, then they can maintain this tyrannical system of never-ending war. So this is really the wake-up call. What has happened in Paris is us. We are responsible through our corrupt governments for all of these policies, and even if these individuals who carried this out are not directly working for Mossad, CIA, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all the same thing, even if they did this organically of their own volition, believe me, that is exactly what our so-called governments want. That is what the policy that we've been fostering over and over. And quite frankly, if we're to look at ISIS, ISIS stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. They never attack Israel, and that in itself also tells you a lot about who these individuals are.
If you ask me, there's a saying, you know, every empire falls, you know, if you ask me, actually, I don't believe any of them actually fell. The people within those empires that benefited from that imperial system, yeah, they fall, they have a real problem, but if you ask me, those who are actually running the imperial system, they just morph into something else.
What's the news? The news is nothing but a bunch of bad news. It's all bad. Everything's horrible. There is no solutions. The politicians are corrupt. War everywhere. This is very, very important to understand. The reason why that's being done is because it gets you in a cynical point of view. It gets you to believe that there's nothing that you can do, that you are insignificant, and anything that you might venture to do is foolhardy at best. Accept the reality. This is very common in the West in particular, because we have a lot to lose in terms of material, and we've been intoxicated and entranced with the idea of material gain, and the cost of that is that we've actually sacrificed the much more profound, the spiritual, and the more philosophical aspects of life, which hold far greater value than anything physical. You need the physical to survive, but in terms to truly grow on a spiritual level, it has hardly anything to do with that growth.
I say that, and I suppose that's probably the good segue into some of the more controversial things, the things that we're not supposed to be able to talk about, which to me is a big red flag to say that's what you're supposed to talk about, these things that we're not allowed to talk about. You know, I don't know the quote word for word, but I'm sure many of you know it. Voltaire, you know, you want to know where the power is, find out who you can't criticize. Well, if there's one group on this planet that you really can't criticize, it's pretty damn obvious. I'm sure everybody's just waiting for that word to come out.
So I didn't know it at the time, but I joined the Marine Corps because I was looking for the father that I never had. And of course I had no idea of the implications of doing this. I believed all the spoon-fed crap of, you know, my nation's the greatest in the world, freedom and democracy and all this sort of stuff. And while I was in the Marine Corps, I ended up speaking out about abuse of power. You know, one of the things they teach in the Marine Corps is leadership by example. And my leaders were not leading by example. They were abusing their position of authority. And when I spoke out about that, I made a conscious decision to do it openly. I could have done it clandestinely, but I didn't think that was the honorable thing to do. So I did an honorable thing, and I was punished severely. And it shattered the illusion of the Marine Corps being about honor and integrity. I realized that I had become a slave, that I had imposed slavery upon myself, volunteered for it, literally, and that I could kill or be killed as a result of this decision. And it caused me to reflect deeply on everything that I had come to believe.
I don't care what anybody says, there's a lot of programming in most of us And very few of us have the ability to actually shed that stuff and start really thinking for ourselves. But when you do, boy, oh boy, does it revolutionize the way you see the world. And, you know, it's a normal process for most of us when we start actually seeing things as they are to feel very alone, you know, very isolated. Many people get depressed, you know, they look at the masses who, you know, are you kidding me? Do people actually believe this nonsense? And it all seems very depressing, but I don't know, I managed to stumble on some things that really helped me along the way. And one of them was the understanding that we are all of us, not just human beings, but all life. We are all brothers and sisters in a family of life. We all have a common fate. We live on planet Earth. You know, what's good for the Earth is good for us. What's bad for the Earth is bad for us. There's just no way to break that, you know. I mean, you may profit financially from doing something bad for the Earth, but have you really gained? Well, the only way that you could possibly have gained is if you believe that you live detached, disconnected from the rest, and that somehow you can derive benefit at someone else's expense. When you understand the truth, from my perspective, understanding that we are all connected, what is good for you is good for me, and there's no way around that. I don't care how clever you are. In truth, your cleverness is your stupidity. You think that you can manage to obtain some real benefit off of exploiting somebody else's weakness. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And I don't care how smart you are, the fact is that if you have harmed others for your own perceived personal benefit, you have screwed yourself. And you have not helped the planet or the greater good. And we've been conned into this.
And I've applied the principle of acting on what you believe in your heart is right. And what a beautiful path that is. I don't care what anybody says. If you act that way with genuine intention and with a lack of fear and some level of intelligence, boy, oh boy, what an amazing path that is. 46 years old now. I don't know how much time I'll have in this plane, but I can damn sure guarantee that I will make the most of it. And if the past is any reflection of future, boy, oh boy, the blessings that are coming my way, and I hope for the rest of the world, should we adopt this kind of philosophy and approach to life, I have no doubt whatsoever that we can achieve a better world, something that we can be truly proud and happy to hand over to our children. And quite frankly, to me, that is the greatest responsibility of all. If we are turning a blind eye and pretending as if the problems are not severe, grave, to the point of complete total annihilation, personal and collective annihilation is a distinct possibility. If we don't face this, we may very well hand that over to our children. And I think that's a dereliction of our duty, to say the least, and we should be ashamed of ourselves if indeed we hand over this world in a worse state. But where I see us right now in terms of humanity, its evolution, its growth, its understanding, its consciousness, it is absolutely undeniable from my perspective that the growth of consciousness is unparalleled in human history. We know of no time where we have grown and understood more and more and more at such an accelerated pace as we do now, and I find that extremely exciting, and I believe it is the precondition to creating a better world.
If we wanted to pay attention to things that are in the public record, we would know that. And if we cared about other people as much as we should care about other people, as if they were our brothers and sisters, we wouldn't have allowed this shit to happen. But we have. And now we are confronting a situation in which everything that we become used to, you know, the kind of comfort level that we're used to. I had somebody say the other night, you know, you're making me really uncomfortable. Good. Good. If you came here to be comfortable, then I hope to disappoint you, you know. I think comfort is part of our problem. The more comfortable we are, it's amazing how directly proportionate comfort is to stupidity or willful ignorance. Some of the dumbest people on the planet are Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford graduates, willfully ignorant because they know enough to know that if they speak the truth about a number of subjects, it ain't good for their career. You know, we are, unfortunately, as a species, very crisis-driven. You know, it appears as if we need a crisis before we start to really do something meaningful, and it doesn't seem very wise to me. We are being led down a path which is our own undoing, and I don't have any doubt whatsoever that the American nation, the people of this nation, are going to be living like a third world nation, big time, especially once one very simple thing changes, and that's the petrodollar system. everything that you're enjoying right now, it was slightly different before 1973, but everything that we're enjoying right now is based on a perverse system known as the petrodollar system, tied into the central banks and so on and so forth. And that system isn't going to be around much longer.
We have an opportunity. It truly is up to us. If we do what we're capable of, boy, oh boy, people are not even going to recognize the world that we're going to have in the future. A much better world, a sane world, in which everyone has all that is needed. And in fact, we can live in a state of abundance. And actually, instead of fighting and killing each other over our differences, which we currently do, we will celebrate these differences and say, wow, you know, what an amazing perspective. Even though I don't necessarily agree, how beautiful is that?
These individuals do not give a shit, and they will do anything. And what they're experiencing right now is very troubling. Very troubling indeed, because what we are experiencing right now at this point in history is a rising of the human consciousness that's never happened in recorded history. We don't know of any period in human history where so many people are becoming more and more aware, recapturing the ability to think for themselves and actually becoming human beings.
I say enough, really. You know, again, I repeat, according to the official version of history, the Nazis on the lower ranking end were just following orders. What is the difference between those men and women on the ground in the TSA, Homeland Security, who are following the orders that defile the U.S. Constitution? And shame on us that American so-called patriots are handing over this nation to your children in a state where they have no constitutional rights whatsoever. The founding fathers of this nation actually had some balls and did something. Hypocrites that they were on many counts, they gave us something. And what do? Like little spoilt brats, we flushed it down the toilet, and we give our children nothing. Shame on us all for allowing this state of affairs. I hope 2016 is the year we really collectively say, go fuck yourselves. We do not consent or submit to your fucked up system. There is no moral authority at all in the U.S. government or the police forces, the courts, none of it. The media, bunch of prostitute liars. Anyway, I've just about had it with this fucking bollocks. I think it's the last time I enter this godforsaken country. Really, enough is enough. I am disgusted by the activities of my birth nation in foreign lands and also here in the so-called homeland. Fucking disgrace.